The rain fell in sheets, drumming against the windshield as Daniel navigated the dimly lit streets of the city. His fingers tapped against the steering wheel, a subconscious rhythm filling the empty silence of the car. It was well past midnight, and the streets were nearly deserted, save for the occasional flickering street lamp and the shadowed figures of late-night wanderers. He had been driving for hours, ferrying passengers from one point to another, each ride blending into the next. It was a monotonous job, but it paid the bills. Tonight, however, there was an unsettling stillness in the air, an unshakable feeling that gnawed at the edges of his mind. His phone buzzed. A new ride request. The pickup location was just a few blocks away. He accepted it and turned down a darkened street, the headlights casting long shadows on the wet pavement. A lone figure stood at the curb, dressed in dark clothing, the hood of their jacket pulled low over their face. Daniel rolled down the window slightly. "For Jackson?" The figure gave a small nod and slid into the back seat without a word. The door shut with a dull thud, and Daniel shivered as a sudden chill filled the car. The passenger said nothing, offered no greeting, just sat motionless, their face obscured by the hood. Daniel cleared his throat. "Heading downtown, right?" No response, just the soft rasp of breathing. He shrugged, used to the occasional odd passenger. Some people just didn't like small talk. The drive continued in silence, the hum of the engine the only sound accompanying the rain. Then, in the rearview mirror, he saw it. A second figure. His heart stuttered in his chest. There, seated beside the hooded passenger, was another presence. Motionless, featureless in the dim light. But he knew it hadn't been there when the ride began. His pulse quickened. He swallowed, glancing over his shoulder. But when he turned to look directly, there was only one passenger. Slowly, he looked back at the mirror. The second figure remained. Daniel gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles whitening. The air grew heavier, the temperature plummeting. His breath came in shallow gasps. The hooded figure remained still. But now, he could feel eyes on him. The second passenger, the one that wasn't supposed to be there, turned its head toward the mirror. It had no discernible features, no face, just a smooth shadowed void, where eyes, a nose, a mouth should have been. Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to slam on the brakes, to demand answers, to bolt from the car. But something held him in place. Fear, primal and suffocating. Then the hooded passenger moved. Their head tilted slightly, just enough for the dim light to catch their features. A small, unnatural smile stretched across their face. And as they parted their lips, Daniel's stomach dropped. Rows upon rows of jagged, needle-like teeth gleamed in the darkness. His breath hitched. The figure in the mirror began to lean closer, its void-like face now inches from the glass. A whisper, barely audible, curled through the car like smoke. "Drive." Daniel's body moved before his mind caught up. His foot slammed against the gas pedal, tires screeching against the wet pavement. Buildings blurred past as he sped through the empty streets, his hands trembling on the wheel. The mirror shook with each bump in the road, but the reflection remained unchanged. Two figures, impossibly still, watching him with inhuman patience. His mind screamed at him to stop, to abandon the car, to run. But his body obeyed the single, whispered command that still echoed in his ears. He drove. And in the mirror, the second passenger began to smile. Daniel had no idea where he was going. The city lights blurred past in streaks of neon and street lamps. But soon, he realized something unsettling. He didn't recognize these streets anymore. The buildings, the street names, even the layout of intersections. None of it felt familiar. He knew the city well. He had driven its roads countless times, memorized shortcuts and back alleys. But now, he was somewhere else. somewhere that shouldn't exist. The rain intensified, hammering the windshield as his wipers struggled to keep up. The streetlights flickered, then failed entirely, plunging the road into darkness. Only the weak glow of his dashboard lights remained, casting eerie shadows in the car's interior. Daniel chanced another glance at the rearview mirror. The hooded passenger sat perfectly still, their fingers clasped together in their lap. The second figure, the one with no face, had changed positions. It was closer now. His throat was dry. Who are you? Silence. Then, the hooded passenger exhaled a slow, deliberate breath. We are the ones who watch. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands trembled against the wheel. Watch what? The spaces in between, the passenger whispered. The roads that should not exist. The places drivers go, but never return. Daniel's stomach churned. He pressed the brakes, but the pedal gave no resistance. The car didn't slow. It only seemed to move faster, as if the road itself was pulling it forward. The hooded passenger turned their head toward him, their sharp-toothed grin stretching impossibly wide. You took a wrong turn, Daniel. He didn't remember telling them his name. His breath came in ragged gasps. The faceless figure in the mirror was now right behind him. He could feel its presence, feel the cold breath against the back of his neck. And then, a hand, thin and impossibly long, reached forward from the darkness of the back seat and rested on his shoulder. Daniel screamed. The road ahead twisted unnaturally, bending in ways no street should. The cityscape melted away, replaced by towering shadows and endless voids of darkness. Streetlights flickered like dying stars, their glow swallowed by something vast and hungry. Daniel's grip on the wheel tightened until his fingers ached. He couldn't stop. He couldn't turn back. The road stretched into eternity, and in the mirror his passengers watched with silent, patient amusement. His voice was barely a whisper. Where am I? The hooded passenger chuckled. The sound was low, wet, something not meant to be human. You're already there. Daniel didn't understand, until he looked outside. The city was gone, and in its place was only darkness. Do you dare take a ride with Daniel? What would you do if you found yourself on a road that shouldn't exist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more chilling tales. Drive safe, if you can.